Welcome to another episode of Sketchy. My number is 14.
And I'm Mr. B.
Today we're going to be talking again about the Olympics.
Hey-o.
Hey, we're going to be doing it while it's going on, because let's face it, it's the most interesting disaster that you're ever watching. Every day there's something interesting that happens. And I don't just mean one thing. I mean like a whole fucking bunch of things.
Well, yeah, most of these disasters, they play out within like 24 hours, you know?
Well,
the news cycle chews them up, they're gone, but with Rio, you
nobody
have
can follow up, though.
days and days and days of disastertainment?
I guess so. I mean, it's an apocalyptic kind of event. So, if you haven't listened to the last show, I suggest that you do, because we make some predictions. And this show, we're going to catch up with those predictions. We're going to see.
Let's see how we're doing.
Let's see how we're doing. Let's do the. I guess we're kind of in competition, so it's like who's gonna.
We did make some predictions,
yeah, but this is a gentleman's bet. So even though we're gonna have to judge each other's, like the news, does this fall into the category of XYZ that you said? We'll have to kind of be generous and be gentlemanly about it. Are you ready? But still, I want to win.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna win.
Okay,
no doubt.
Yeah, okay, yeah, doubtful.
Okay,
but first,
okay, what were you?
What
doing?
are you drinking?
No. Sorry, I thought you were going to say, what are you doing this weekend? Or what do you do this weekend?
What are you doing this weekend? I'm not propositioning you. What if I gave you $1 million?
Oh, God. It's not enough. Okay, what are you drinking? I am drinking,
what are you drinking?
Another Ruskies Blue Ribbon.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The P to the B to the R.
PBR. What are you
not a sponsor.
No, definitely not for now.
Well, in honor of the state of the world, I'm drinking a beer from our home province called Fin du Monde, End of the World.
End of the World. And it's a 9% fucking beer that's more like wine.
Yeah.
You can't drink that
It's
stuff.
a painkiller of sorts.
Actually, it kind of reminds me of Jewish wine. It's a fucking sweet, dude. It's a pretty sweet beer. No? You know, fun?
The beer that I'm drinking, it is pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's kind of weird having a sweet beer.
It's sweet.
That's the weird thing, actually. Once you start passing the 5%, they start getting sweet. And you're like, this is not pleasant to the palate here.
Well, you know, ethanol has quite a few calories, and you do metabolize it.
Yeah, it's a form of energy. Really direct form, in fact.
If you metabolize too much, you get some side effects. But
I heard that some people say that it might be a benefit to drink ethanol before working out. It's a really immediate form of energy. It dulls the pain a little. Yeah, so maybe you're going to do a little bit more working out, or it could go horribly wrong. I don't know.
Well, you know, I was watching this neuroscientist explain what happens when you drink, and alcohol is one of the only things that can cross the blood-brain barrier.
Oh, wait, did you watch that documentary I told you to watch, The Addicted one? Is that what you watched?
I have just started that one, but it wasn't that.
No.
Although they probably go into the same kind of thing.
They do.
So it goes through the blood-brain barrier, which not many substances can, and based on which region of the brain gets affected by alcohol first you feel super good.
Sure.
And then maybe 2 drinks in, 3 drinks in, you start actually getting a lot more energy, or the sensation that you get a lot more energy, because it's messing with these neurotransmitters, and one of them keeps you calm, the other one gives you energy. So
Sure.
Progressively you go through this phase, and a bunch of other stuff happens later. But
I feel,
anyway,
after 3 drinks, I feel like I could run a marathon.
and then promptly barf.
Well, yeah, maybe. I think I'll be out of breath before I fucking barf. But you just feel like you're right. I'm like, ooh, I'm bounding with energy. I'm just going to run a marathon. Yeah.
The way you remember it, you're a marathon hero.
Yeah.
The way the public remembers it, you're a smelly guy sprinting through the park.
Every time I drink, I'm always the hero of my own story. It's amazing. You should try it. Actually, that's the thing about drugs, though, really. I mean, their effect is to make you feel good about yourself. Because let's face it, man, there's a lot of times where you just don't feel so good. And there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't feel good.
Well, let's face it, man, you're not that great.
Well, there was an interesting study that found that about 75% of the population of, let's say, of a typical country, like, say, the United States, 75% of people will have zero impact on policy or any decision in their world or environment. You are probably that 75%.
You're that butterfly trapped in a hurricane.
Hey, and I say you as in probably me too, all right? Let me put myself in there because I ain't no world shaker, okay? I'm not affecting fucking policy or any of that shit.
Well, you've given up your name for a number, so I think you've resigned to being just anonymously insignificant.
And I'm not even number 1.
Hardly.
I didn't take that number. That's too much fucking
Not even
pressure.
in the top 10.
Yeah. I mean, number 14, I mean, imagine you're in a race and you're number 14. First of all, no one's going to complain if you raced against 100 people and you came in 14th. That's not bad. Like, no one's going to say, like, you're a loser, but no one is going to, at the same time,
You're not going to
you.
be in the paper or anything like that.
No, I suppose I would not.
You would not.
If I was in the paper, it's because I had committed a crime, and that was the only famous thing that I had done. Yeah. You'll notice that when you're like an absolute nobody, they'll find the weirdest thing about you.
Or the most grody picture.
No, nowadays everybody's got a stupid picture with them holding a gun. Don't take that picture. Don't be that
take
dude.
that picture.
No.
Well, don't commit a crime.
Okay, do we
especially
really
a
have
heinous
to cover
crime.
that one? Yeah.
Don't do that. Just hey, put that selfie stick down, buddy.
If you're the fucking person who's like, I really want to take that one picture of me pointing a gun at the camera. No. I mean...
Well, maybe they want to be found. Maybe they want to be discovered. Maybe they want to leave some...
Tell me there's not a fucking
creepy
computer algorithm that's not searching for fucking gun pointing at a goddamn camera photo and instantly terrorist database. I mean, that's what I do.
There has to be. Oh, man.
It's just a smart move.
To be.
That's the fucking smart move. I'm like, guy holding a gun. Possibility that he could do something violent, very high.
Should we turn on gun detector algorithm?
Fuck face recognition, gun recognition.
Gun detection.
Just how much a person loves the gun and post pictures
Right.
about
No, you know
them.
what? It correlates the gun to the person holding it and the expression on their cold face.
I think it's if you just point at the camera, it's obvious. Like, what are you saying to the world? Especially if you post that on Facebook. You're saying, I'm going to shoot you. That's basically what that photo is.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot you in the face. So, I don't know. Hey, FBI or whatever. Or NSA, more like, get on that shit. Get on it.
Yeah.
Come on.
Pretty weird to have constitutional rights that deal with guns specifically. That's a strange thing to call out in the Constitution.
Well, it's not strange if you consider the circumstances that surround the creation. Because here's the thing about...
initial conditions are everything.
No, but
they explain all the weirdness.
I know,
it's true, but it's still weird.
No, but like, look, the problem that you have is when you think about America as a country now, its history has become kind of mythologized. They think, oh, these guys came down from heaven and created a country.
They were 99 feet tall, and they were wiser than deep blue.
I'm like, no, they were a bunch of rich dudes that saw a very good opportunity to separate themselves from the mother country. And in the process, they were like, well, let's try this experiment. Now, it could have been any other group of dudes, rich dudes, that had a very different idea about what a nation should be, right? I mean, they just happened to win. And if you think about it, it's probably mostly a fluke. They managed to convince France to give them a whole bunch of fucking help. I mean... Who does that but like the most fucking charismatic old lady fucker in the world, Ben Franklin, who is the guy he wrote a book about how to fuck older ladies. This is the kind of guy who you send when you need to talk diplomacy, because guess who you got to fuck to get some shit going down. You know what I mean? He fucks some old ladies. I mean, history is dirty. History's motherfucking dirty, yo.
I feel dirtier now. Thank you.
Speaking of dirty, let's talk about something like the Rio Olympics.
Did you see the diving competition today?
I did not, but you told me about it. So
picture the Emerald City, only the city is a cesspool. Green, algae blooming cesspool.
Now, there's 2 pools, so it's a great way for you to see an example of a well-kept pool and one that has a good possibility of giving you ear infections and worse. I mean, that's some fucking...
Yeah, we'll post a little picture if you haven't already seen it. Clean pool versus dirty pool.
It is quite filthy.
So that's the kind of thing that has been happening gradually over a couple days. Apparently, no one's in charge of putting chlorine in that pool.
Oh, well,
even though
things will quickly
5 feet
fall
over,
apart.
there's a clean pool.
Well, things will quickly fall apart because You can always, like, leading up to something, patch a few holes, make it look good, but it's the stress test of human beings that will always
and the test
show
of
the
being
flaw.
consistent, that they will consistently fail. I guarantee.
If only there was, like, a betting thing. I just
Oh,
put
you know,
money on
there
this
are
motherfucker.
bingo cards circulating around the internet with Rio, kind of like what we're doing.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
That's
with Rio
great.
disasters. Maybe we should get in on that.
Well, somebody already had the same idea I had with the logo for the Rio, the fake Rio logo, where it's two dudes with the gun jacking some other guy with his hands up as opposed to three people
Holy
holding
moly.
hands. It's
Okay, so there's a Belgian punched after chasing down thief who stole his friend's phone today. French intelligence. I'm just going to read a couple headlines. See if any kind of stick to our predictions.
Yeah.
French intelligence warns Brazilian authorities about a suspect linked to Al Qaeda and ISIS that might have entered the country, who escaped house arrest in Martinique and was last seen in French Guyana, the border city with Brazil.
Wow.
Does
so
that-
that's number 2 on my list was a terrorist attack or some kind of hostage situation. It's looking pretty good.
Mediabus has had 2 windows smashed after being shot at while traveling between venues.
Is that my
Between
sniper?
venues.
Is that my number 3?
Well,
the possible sniper.
A possible sniper.
Although he's not very good.
We're not going to know if that's the sniper because
Can I-
he might not ever get caught.
Well, I may need to rethink my prediction because I said he'd kill 15 people, but 2 missed shots. I mean, come on, dude. Like, did you not practice before the fucking games?
Oh, boy.
Unbelievable. I do like how the first gold medal that America won was for shooting. So, I mean, I guess the Second Amendment is good for some. Congratulations. You are the gun masters. Nobody wants to fuck with you. That's, I guess that's good. Maybe.
I guess.
I guess. I guess.
Wow.
Yeah. So what's another headline?
Well, there's a bunch of athletes getting arrested for sexual harassment of either each other or maids or service people. There was a Namibian boxer who was arrested. There was also a Dutch gymnast who was sent home for drinking. I guess it's not a disaster, but it's kind of...
Wait.
How else are you going to cope with emerald green water and all the cesspool of joy around the venues?
Okay, I'm trying to remember your predictions here. They involved... What was, like, the major ones here?
Okay, so I had a doping scandal. Now, I'm still putting my chips on that one.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, it's just started.
Because the Russians have just come in, and apparently none of the pre-game doping testing was done. They decided to wait till after the games for some suspicious reason.
Oh, for an obvious reason.
For an obvious reason.
It's easier to strip medals away than it is to fucking have any honest competition.
Yeah. No, and I made some predictions about the athletes' village. I think there were some incidents.
There's a few. One guy got stuck in an elevator. I do know that. A tennis player, I believe.
Nice.
So, I mean, still doesn't seem like the most... I mean, maybe we need to wait on yours because they seem like the stress test
they're a little bit more stress
But
testy.
what was your number 1 prediction? I'm trying to remember what it was.
Okay, so the number 1, if I recall correctly, was there will be a shot in front of a clip in front of the world stage of either a sailor or maybe a swimmer emerging from one of the bays covered in human feces,
Covered in shit.
crying. That was
Right.
that was my.
Did you add that grind just now?
I did. No. Go back. You'll check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's crying.
All right.
And but there was a rowing incident a couple days ago. I think there was a team who was rowing and they capsized in one of these bays. Who knows what their health condition is? I haven't heard, but they're probably sick. That's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
No antibacterial suit can act quickly enough or effectively enough to protect you from that human filth. Guanabara goodness. So we'll see. Yeah, mine are a little bit more. They're coming. I'm letting them bake for a while.
Well, my number 1 is looking pretty good, as even one of the torchbearer had written on his ass when he went around nude, because as soon as they gave him the torch, he drops his fucking pants, and then he basically has that, get rid of the Michael Mesmer or whatever his name is. I forget what the fuck is Memmer.
Oh, the temporary.
The temporary guy.
president?
Yeah, he's like, get the fuck out of there. So they're like, hey, temporary dude, your days are numbered. So yeah, I mean, he got booed. He got booed when he was like welcoming the games. He got booed.
Michael Temmer. It's Temmer.
There you go.
Yeah. So he dropped Trow?
He dropped fucking Trow
Wow.
and like got filmed like he was the torchbearer, and he decided to use that to fucking tell the interim president.
Man, he should
Step
go into
the fuck down.
He should go into marketing.
He's got bow.
What about that French gymnast who had his leg broken in 3 places?
I did see the video of that as well.
I haven't watched it yet. I'm actually my virgin eyes haven't seen it.
See, he lands so hard. He's like, I don't know how many flips in the air, and when he lands, he just like, bam, lands, and his leg goes go, nah.
So didn't they have mats, or how did that happen?
They did. But I mean, typically when you land, you're not supposed to land
with your knees locked or something.
with also that much force and
gross.
And I don't know. I think that he was kind of like a little bit too pumped up. You know, when he in that jump, like I don't know if he had just too much fucking adrenaline. Like one of the things that happens in combat sports, for instance, which involves a lot of adrenaline, is that you can just have this surge in the first few, let's say, 30 seconds to a minute, and then after that, you're just fucking done. But I think he had a crazy surge and just had a bit of a gorilla moment and just launched himself like he was a fucking missile.
Wow.
And unfortunately...
Well, you are at the Olympics. Yeah. That's adrenaline for you. But, so when he was being carted off to the ambulance, they fucking dropped him. Way to go. Thanks, Obama.
It feels almost like a comedy. I mean, is this their first time? You drop a guy with a leg broken.
Add to that the very expensive tickets that were sold to some of the nautical events that had no view of the actual pool, no view of any kind of event because of some pillars. While at the same time, many of the venues are completely empty, or not completely empty, but mostly empty.
Can you imagine running in the race of your life and there's fucking nobody
There's nobody. And the security lines are winding around the block, and they just can't let people in fast enough because they're just disorganized.
So do you know also why the military coup is probably the most likely thing? Do you know how many troops are in Rio right now? 85,000.
85,000.
85,000.
I mean, that
changes the fucking government pretty fast.
That's kind of incendiary. It could
85,000
could get hot soon. Yeah,
goddamn tiny
quickly.
Holy shit.
That's crazy. Check out there's some videos of these children thieves sneaking up on people. There's so many of them. My goodness. As soon as
they follow you, just beat the shit out of them. That's my best advice.
There's a kid following you.
Take out a bat.
You got to do something about that. That kid is not your friend, buddy.
He's basically scoping you out to steal whatever he's going to steal. And he might have a little knife on him that he's going to use to cut your clothing and probably
not cool.
Oh, man. What a great place for tourists. Yeah. Go visit. It's kind of like they had this kid from a Make-A-Wish Foundation who wanted to go see this I forget which event it is. It was definitely in the early days of the Olympics. So they bring him all the way there, and because of like all the traffic problems and organizational problem, he didn't get to see it. That thing that he went to Rio to go see.
Traffic jam.
And I bet you $10 he doesn't get out alive.
That is not good.
Somebody's gonna steal his wheelchair.
Stay strong, Make-A-Wish Foundation kid. Stay strong.
You know what? That was a dumb dream, kiddo. That was a dumb dream. Like, you want to go to this mess? Come on now. Although he was probably too busy dying of cancer to read the news, but it helps. If you're gonna travel to another place, you should probably do a little bit of research on it. I mean, there's no place that's kind of like your dream. There's a harsh reality out there, and all those fucking Rio people are learning it real fast.
Apparently China is sending their own policemen to protect their citizens while they're in Rio. That's a vote of confidence.
So what would happen if there was an incident and with Chinese police? What kind of powers do they have, and what's that about?
I guess the rule is just don't get caught.
Oh, man. That
seems to be the Rio way.
Yeah. Well, that is the way of the world nowadays anyway. It's just don't get caught. Or if you get caught, just deny. And nobody's going to really try to follow through. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Do people have follow through now? Really, no.
Follow through.
Like, this is why every piece of news that you're reading about these Rio disasters, I doubt anyone's doing any follow-up.
No, I mean, there's bullets that are striking the horse competition. Apparently, someone from a nearby favela was angry that there was a blimp flying around because, police use blimps too there, apparently. And I was just shooting at the blimp, and because of the parabolic arc of the bullet, it just happened to zing right into the equestrian village down there.
See, that's what happens with guns. So many guns.
Yeah.
Fan-fucking-tastic.
Good job, Rio.
You know what?
Good job.
I want to add, somebody's going to die from a straight fucking bullet. It's going to happen.
Oh, boy. That's your number 6? You're adding number 6?
Just a bonus one. You get a bonus one. You want to add a bonus
Sadly,
one?
it might be a save.
Like things are happening. Things are in motion. You've read the news. You get to have a bonus question, just in case we have a tie. So what is going to be your bonus?
I thought we already had a bonus from last one, but okay,
No,
I'll make a new one. I think the... there will be...
There will be blood.
There will be blood. There's going to be an embarrassing... an embarrassing bribery scandal caught on live TV, streamed around the world.
Like what, a hot mic kind of bribery?
Yeah, hot mic kind of like, where's my fucking money or something like that, Something like that.
Well, there was already that coach from Kenya, I think, or I forget which country. It was an African country who got caught in a kind of like asking for his bribery money.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, so it's just it's kind of a matter of time.
Well, I got my bonus. Yay!
Just well, it wasn't a hot mic.
Okay, it wasn't a hot mic.
You said hot mic.
Fair enough.
Gotta be specific. And I'm saying an athlete will die from a stray bullet. Gotta be real specific.
Athlete.
Ooh,
yeah.
Yep. And it'll be like a super young one too, full of promise and some shit. Their event coming up, taken out by a bullet.
Awful.
Well, you know how many people died?
There's a lot of riots going on.
How many people died before the Olympics started?
The construction people.
4,000 people died. Like, this is the police basically eliminating people they thought were a problem. And what they do is that they pay people in the favelas to basically find their targets. So you're kind of like a hitman. You point at someone and the fucking police go and kill them. And your job, you're basically paid to hunt out these witches. But really, you could be some unscrupulous dick who's just fucking cleaning house.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
New
Olympic event?
What? Human hunting?
Right. I mean, they should give a medal, right? At the end? The most frags?
They basically have that with shooting. They just need to have a couple human targets hidden around the city. And the first one to fucking eliminate the human target wins.
Now that would be riveting television.
That's a Brazilian sport, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But 4,000 fucking people, and these are warrantless kind of police actions. It's basically Judge Dredd.
Yeah, Judge Dredd.
And there's Judge Dredd in the fucking favela.
Only got a silver medal at the Judge Dredd games.
So you live there, and you've had a few fucking friends that, maybe the worst thing they did was dealt a little fucking weed or something like that to just get by. I mean, everybody's got a story. And then they get off by the police. What, you're supposed to have a lot of motherfucking respect for that shit?
Not cool.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, how is there any solidarity in this kind of society? And this is something that's really missing in general from our society. We have less and less solidarity with each other. We just we don't want to be involved with anybody else. We want to live in our own fucking little bubble. But such a thing is impossible. You do not live in a bubble. You are so dependent on other people. I cannot stress this enough. You're a baby. All right, if the fucking chain breaks and you gotta go and feed yourself, what the fuck do you think's gonna happen? First of all, you're gonna shit your pants like a baby, and next you're gonna cry for food like a baby because you don't know what to do you? I mean, I don't know what to do. We're all fucking babies, so that's why we all huddle at like the teat, and when things get rough, we're like, no, I can't do anything. I'm useless. You are useless. You're the most useless generation that's ever existed in the history of mankind. Congratulations. Useless. All you can do is post cat videos. You know what I mean? Like, you were the useless generation. Pointless.
What are you going to eat? Other people? You don't have
There's plenty of them, though. Yeah. If that's your plan, it's not a bad plan, actually. Except for one problem. If you eat like any of the neural parts
those
of like
prions,
the body, I mean, that's a different thing. But if you eat like basically the neural transmitter of your entire body, the nerves, if you eat too much of that shit, the fluid that's in that nerve will fucking start to give you the old shakes. That's why you can't eat a lot of humans, especially you cannot eat human brain. You will have the motherfucking shakes. forever. You'll be like, you're a cannibal shaker, man.
Wow, that sounds bad, but what if it's delicious?
It probably
No,
is
I mean during an
perfectly-
apocalypse. During an apocalypse. Like in a alive, crashed in the Andes
Well,
kind of
eat
situation.
whatever there's the fewest nerves. So a lot of buttocks.
Ooh, there's no nerves in the butt.
Well, I mean, there's some, but I mean, it's not as like. Have you ever
It's
been
not
really
dense.
spanked that hard on your butt? Yeah, it's all right, you know. But if you were smacked that hard on any other part of your body, you'd be crying.
Right.
So you got.
Well, that's real practical advice. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Have you seen that fake meat burger that's like making the rounds?
Oh, the lab grown shit.
No, well, this one is. I don't think.
Oh no, it's a plant that
It's
they
a
use
plant.
a fibrous plant. That,
So this one could be the real deal because instead of trying to simulate or
grow meat.
instead of emulating the different flavors of a cooked burger or growing actual muscle tissue, which didn't really. I mean, that might pan out. I don't know, but I just don't see it.
It's too slow.
It seems expensive and wasteful. What this one guy did, a former Stanford professor, he figured out the component kind of chemicals that went into raw meat, raw hamburger, and was able to go and get bits and pieces from most like common cooking ingredients that people have been using for hundreds of years, except for one. And it's the same chemical compound that makes your blood red. It's called hema, like hemoglobin.
Yeah.
And figured out a way to get that in there. And apparently
It's blood red.
the burger bleeds.
Shut your
You can cook it
fucking mouth.
to any degree of rareness. They even took it to France and served tartare to Parisians who love that crazy shit, and they went nuts for it. This is it. When it cooks, it's all fatty and bloody. It tastes like a burger.
So now
apparently.
we're going to have to make a decision. How many creatures that we used to eat do we keep alive? Because otherwise they'll go extinct.
Well, you put a cow in a zoo is what you'll end up doing because we were always so nice to them. We have to keep them.
No, I actually think that what we need to do is we probably one of the reasons why we're sicker now or why there's a lot of asthma is that there's no Amish with asthma.
Huh.
And
that doesn't really surprise me. They're very connected to nature.
There's some reason to believe that, since we spend so much time like living side by side with animals sometimes in our fucking own houses, that there's something to be said about the need to have some of these other animals there to maybe constantly test our immune systems because a lot of diseases are shared.
I don't know if it has to do with pets, but I do buy if you're constantly exposed to like common dirt and pollen and things that are in the environment that people today call allergens, and probably people connected to nature would just call like nature. Yeah. Then I buy that one. I don't know if it's because of cats per se or dogs that live in close proximity, but
think about how many things.
It makes sense.
Look, there's going to be times where that relationship is disastrous. Like for instance, the swine flu, where a disease that originally starts from one animal jumps over to the next. It's kind of the same thing with SARS. This was kind of like the consequence of other animals sharing a lot of our DNA.
Right.
But at the same time, like maybe you have to kind of like, I don't know, get a bit of a dose of it. Because I feel like to some degree, like, I don't know, maybe we're so disconnected from nature in cities that we wonder, why do people who live in cities live less long, even though they live a higher quality of life in general? And you're just like, I think that the way that we build our cities makes us sick, dude. It's just pretty fucking sick.
There's a lot that's being written about over sterility, like keeping things way too clean, living in a germ bubble, and not training our immune systems at a young age. Even breastfeeding, like not breastfeeding, has been apparently linked to not so healthy immune system. So you're probably right. What we think we're making things better by living a super squeaky clean life, but
Mr. Clean is the enemy.
Yeah, there are those who think that the reason why children, suck on their thumb and play with dirt and stuff is largely due to training immune system. Like that's the sort of evolutionary biology view on things in some circles.
It's a fucking war.
I don't think it's a crazy hypothesis. I think it deserves
war.
More investigation.
Well, I just think that maybe what if you needed to have a dirt floor?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was the whole thing. That if you didn't have a dirt floor, if you had this thing that you're constantly brooming, then there wouldn't be enough of the microbacteria that forms part of nature that you're breathing in all the time that you need. Like this wood floor could be the fucking
second
worst
you're
thing ever.
exposed to real dust in the air, your immune system freaks out now. Yeah.
You're like, you have nature as your allergen. What the fuck, man? You're part of nature.
3, 2, 1.
But the weird thing too is the benefit of living in cities. So it turns out that if you look at the life quality of people, every 100,000 people in a city, your standard of living will go up by 10%.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of network effect of cities. Apparently, I'll try to find the study if I can. There's a constant ratio of the number of people. If you double the number of people, your income goes up by 15% or something like that.
Regardless, it's significant.
Regardless of the type of city or the architecture,
it's just the amount of
political system. Yeah, exactly.
It's really kind of fucked up if you can directly observe the benefits. And this is why, okay, so let's talk about what you did last weekend, because this is kind of interesting. You went over to one of the largest cities in the world.
I did. So, yeah, one of the things I've been... I sort of have a hobby of looking at cocktails and recipes and sort of the culture and learning to make some of these interesting drinks. The revival of these pre-prohibition drinks and so on and so forth. So I kind of geek out on that stuff. And I put together a little trip to go down with a buddy and...
it was his birthday.
Yeah, and actually, do it. And we had a big list of places we wanted to go. Some of them are the best bars in the world. They're consistently rated in the top list. Some of them are really influential, like the best bartenders in the world today were trained at some of these bars. So it was really, really interesting to see these things firsthand. We made it. But, man, the trip down, like going from one sort of major city, we were in Montreal in Canada, and driving through sort of rural America, there's a good 5 or 6 hours of rural America before you're in New York City. Holy moly, it's...
depressing. It's a lot of boarded up homes.
It's a lot of boarded up homes.
It's paint chip falling off.
It's honestly depressing. And, I sort of grew up in a small town, and it was sort of around rural people and communities, farms. And I think it's actually quite different in Canada.
It's very different.
I mean, there isn't a marked difference in the quality of life, I would say, between people who live in a town and people who live in a city. Sure, there's a difference, but it doesn't seem that huge. In the States, I don't know what it is, but these towns, they look one step away from being a ghost town, some of them. The food in the diners, the diners look really cute and quaint, but it's just not tasty. The people are depressed. It gave me the EBGBs. I was kind of freaked out by it.
You got to understand that the first thing, the reason why Canada looks so different to you, especially the rural areas in Canada, the main reason is that Canada is a tiny strip of land where people live. I mean, it's kind of hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
90% of the population
lives in 200 miles or
from the
something
border
of the U.S. border.
And so if you're a small town, the odds are you're actually very, very close to a urban center. So you will still benefit from a lot of the elements of those cities. Now, and it's not just that. It's like a good example is one of the major influences in terms of quality of life is health. So even if you have a small town in Canada, because of the subsidized healthcare, you will have like healthcare facilities that are able to still manage small towns and still have a pretty high quality. Right. While in American towns, you're just not going to exist. There's not enough people.
The bottom
it's
is
a
much
market,
lower,
and so there's no money to be made from these people, and so their health will deteriorate, which means that they're more likely to miss time at work, so they're less employable. There's all kinds of weird ancillary benefits that the United States doesn't have because of the way that their society is structured, and so people who are on the peripheries of these like major urban centers are fucking ignored. And you wonder why is it that in places that are in rural America, why are they so ignorant? And you're like, but there's no schools, or even if there are schools, teachers are terrible.
They're not very well funded, or
they're using books
supervised.
that basically say that evolution is a theory and not proven.
There was definitely a vibe like that, which was really surprising in sort of the northeast part of the country. We hear these stories about the South, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. At the same time, we were trying to play Pokemon Go, and it was a weird parallel because when we were going through these small towns, there were no good Pokemon. And when we got to the city, it was like a million of the rarest, crazy ass. It was actually really fun to play, believe it or not. And we were just joking around with it, but it was kind of like life in the States. If you're not in a big city, the game sucks. You can't win.
Let me ask you this question as a Pokemon question. Do you actually make your Pokemon fight, or you just fucking collect them?
I am so non-committal about these things.
What features have you used in the game?
Me personally, I've done nothing except collect Pokemon, and I go to the Pokestops. I haven't done any of the gym stuff.
Forget all of that.
I just leveled up to the point where I technically could go to a gym, but I don't care that much.
Pokemon is not a game. This is what people don't realize.
No, it's not. It's not. It's like a data harvesting tool to see where people are.
Because in a game, like for instance, the Pokemon are supposed to fight. You haven't had one fucking fight.
Me, I haven't.
In fact, the fighting is apparently terribly done, and the gameplay elements of the game are rotten. Like anybody who actually loves Pokemon games, who have played them studiously, will say that once the glow is gone of this weird, fun, interactive virtual world element. Right. Once that kind of fades away, you're like, this game is a piece of shit.
I've heard that the game is a piece of crap too, and like, it's interesting in the sense that if you can make so many millions, or who knows, 1 billion people play this thing with a shit game, then wait for the real game to come out. Like, that's going to be really cool. So that to me is just an indicator that augmented reality stuff is going to have a killer app, and this is not the end of it.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right. It's a total waste of time. I was walking around Manhattan, and all these kids were coming up to us, and they asked us if we were playing Pokemon, and they're like, yeah, we're playing. And they kept on trying to trick us into going down these fucking dark alleys, claiming that there were some rare Pokemon and shit like that. So it's bringing people together, but it's also bringing bad people together.
It's bringing the worst of people together, too.
Bring the worst of us.
Well, there's definitely been... There was a person a couple of days ago who was shot and murdered, while playing Pokemon.
Yeah.
There are car accidents. There's going to be all kinds of fucking things that people... Like, one person who was playing Pokemon discovered a dead body. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing about going out there. Look, you know what I'd rather they make instead of Pokemon Go? Why don't you make like Nature Go? Where the whole thing is, it marks every fucking tree or piece of nature out there. Why don't you take your phone and you go find an oak? Find a fucking maple tree. Gotta catch them all, bitch.
It's funny, like the idea came out that, why trap fake birds when you could build an augmented reality game that actually tracks real life pigeons in a city, and you just sort of tap on them and you virtually capture them. But I like the idea of a nature game, or one that makes you go and try new restaurants, or one that makes you go and pick up trash to clean up your community, or
that one's good. I like.
You know what I mean? Like, there's an adventure, you get points, you gamify.
Sure, I mean, like you take a picture of the piece of trash that you fucking put in,
or
you get a point or something.
Hey, a new bike trail opens up, and you got to go down this thing to collect more bike points. Who cares? Do something productive with people's time. Well, you know what? This is just one big proof of concept, and I think.
But you know what? The proof of concept is this. Like, okay, well, I'll talk about what I was playing, which is more interesting than your Pokemon Go. I was playing No Man's Sky today, which it just came fucking out, and so I decided I've been following this game for months or whatever. I fucking needed to play it, and this game reminds me of a bit of that kind of we were talking about. Go out and explore nature, because it's almost exactly that. So let's say you're on a planet. And you see a flower, some kind of fucking weird looking flower. You've never seen this flower, no one else has. It's generated by an algorithm, so there could be all kinds of different versions. So your job is to catalog this as a species. But I'm like, shit, man, this job is still needed here on Earth. For fuck's sakes, like, please tell me in 10 years we can have such a great tracking system that we could actually get amateurs to go out there and help do science. That would be amazing. Like, forget your fucking virtual dumbass creatures that you're not even fighting. each other with. You're not even using the game the way it's supposed to be used. All you want to do is have a gamified world. Because we've seen time and time again that as soon as you make some kind of fucking well-designed incentives, you can get human beings to do anything. Anything. Right? You can make the worst job pleasant if there was a fucking like little trophy for every 50 times that person did something just mind-numbingly dumb. I mean, are you different than that doggy who wants a treat just to fucking jump through the hoop that's on fire? Really? Do you have that conceit? Oh no, I'm more special. No. You want your little rewards too. So stop being so fucking snobbish about it and just embrace that about yourself. Be like, I am a dumb monkey that can't fucking do anything unless you trick me into doing it. And that's what gamifying is all about. Tricking you into being motivated. And that's the fucking hardest thing in today's world, right? Being motivated. Because I think we've been trained poorly with games. That's the problem. We're expecting everything to be gamified. So, I mean, the good news is we're totally fucking primed for it. You know what I mean? Like a Pokemon Go is a perfect example of how primed you are to just give you a tiny amount of reward. Ooh, there's something out in the world for you to collect. Go out there, dummy. I mean, like, you don't even know anything about Pokemon, B. What the hell do you know about Pokemon?
I know nothing.
Name me 4 Pokemon.
Oh, God, there's a Pidgey, there's
How many do you have in your collection?
You know what? I have quite a few.
You can't
my phone's not here, but
good, because this is a challenge.
I did catch a couple interesting.
Yeah, but you got to know their names, fucker.
There's a Wiggle, Pidgey. There's a Worm one. That's
Worm one. I don't think that's its name.
No, there's a Wiggly, a Pidgey, a Rat-a-tat. No, that's a band. A Ratat. God, and there's like a spooky one that's
spooky
like,
one.
It's like grimy. I think that's one. That's 4. Close enough. Yeah.
All right.
That
was tough, though. Did you see the look on your face, boy?
I just barely passed. I got a 59. Yeah, but
we had to pass him.
Because the professor doesn't want to see your face.
I mean, first of all, how does anyone get a 59? That's a weird. No, that's a weird. It's fucking weird.
Yeah. So video games. You know.
Yeah, so No Man's Sky is like the perfect example of what I think we should strive in terms of exploration. I think people are curious. You know, like they want to explore the world, but I don't think we've ever made it interesting for them.
Right.
I mean, when you went to school, what is the most interesting thing that you learned about nature?
Oh, I learned. I mean, for me, physics was the most interesting thing, but the most interesting thing I learned
self-education right there, buddy.
Yeah, but interesting thing I learned about nature was that if you look around nature and you look at the distribution of stars or the sounds of like waterfalls, that the distribution of sounds and light that appears is like equally distributed at different wavelengths. So that explains pink noise. It explains the distribution of energy amongst heavenly objects. It's fascinating stuff.
That the universe is lazy.
Well, the universe, yeah, like the things. I guess it's the greater truth there is that the universe follows some very simplistic laws, but ends up creating the most mind-boggling complexity. And if you're fooled by the complexity and unable to make that intellectual leap back to those simple laws, then you're kind of missing the whole fucking beauty of nature, which always astounds me about, creationists. They're missing like the most cool thing about evolution. It's just based on these very, very rudimentary laws. Or like flocking seagulls or a school of fish. Well, none of them individually know the whole pattern. But they just have a very simple thing, like keep the other bird to my left, and all of a sudden they make a cool flock. So anyway,
you know what? Speaking of creationists, I think what's funny is that maybe the big problem we have is we've never had a really great way to make effective propaganda about the myths of science. Because look, I use the word myth not in a sense of saying that something is not true, but more in saying that if you were to come up with a myth of creation, right? Let's compare the myths of creation of every fucking religion out there with what science has told us. I mean, the most impressive of the myths are always the same. Some giant dude cuts himself up or does something to like make the universe. And the universe, the way that it's described in these things, is fucking tiny, puny, insignificant,
Puny
boring.
and uninteresting. Yeah.
And there's not even... Everything in these myths have to be described from a human-centered, perspective, which is kind of the worst way to go about trying to describe the universe.
These are like desert people, essentially.
Like, once you remove the human from the equation of telling a story, a much more interesting picture appears. Where all of a sudden you realize just the scope of things. Where actually you don't. Your brain can't fucking handle it. I mean, if you think you can understand the size of the observable universe, no, you can't.
Come on.
You really can't. Even if you've watched the most interactive, fun little graphic that try to, encapsulate it. I mean, you cannot hold more than 9 individual objects in your head. Your brain will just kind of compile it into more than 9. And 9 is for, like, really smart people. You could probably hold about 3 or 4. So when we're talking about, billions of billions of billions times billions of billions of billions, you really think you got a scope on that shit? I mean, I don't think so.
Billion.
It kind of reminds me of that ancient tribe that didn't have a number higher than 3. It just had 1, 2, 3, and then more than 3.
Right.
Yeah, that's basically what your brain is like. Your brain is like, more
There
than
are
3?
apparently still cultures today walking around that have really, really basic counting systems. Never needed to go further, so they didn't.
Never needed to know more than 3. Seriously? Like, I mean, you weren't curious?
You never dreamt of anything bigger than 3?
But look, the invention of mathematics, as far as I'm concerned, is a fucking crutch because you can't hold those numbers in your head. So you got to fucking come up with some tricks.
Well, tricks are things like variables and calculus and linear algebra. I mean, these
are tricks.
The algorithms.
And tricks are not just for kids.
No. You know what they are? They're force multipliers. They allow you to see beyond what's on the horizon there.
Or what's in your tiny little brain.
Yeah, what's in your tiny little brain.
Trust the algorithms. Don't trust your old brain. It will break down pretty fucking fast. I mean, it will go insane if it tries to understand some of these greater concepts. Like, literally nuts. You are going to be frying a piece of your own shit on a heater if you try to fucking mess with that shit. So, keep
Georg Cantor.
Mr. Cantor.
Look
Poor
him
mathematician.
Look him up.
And you know what? All his crime was realizing that there were more than one kind of infinity.
Yeah, he classified infinities, and some say it caused a break in his mind.
Well, sure. If you go to someone, and you've probably had this argument before as a kid, where you say infinity plus 1. What you should have said was you should have defined what type of infinity you are, because you can have some tighter infinities, yo.
Well,
and that's where it is.
For sure,
that's
you
where
can.
it's at.
For sure, you can.
Like, what's the tightest infinity?
Right. Well, like a basic example, you have the infinite numbers, infinite integers. So like -2, -1, 0.
Like whole numbers.
1, 2, 3, 4. How many are there? More of those than 2 times that set? So like all the even numbers. Is it which set is bigger? Right. Well, you can map every single element of set 1 to set 2. Like 0 maps to 0, 1 maps to 2, 2 maps to 4, 3 maps to 6, and on it goes without losing any. So those 2 sets of infinities are considered the same. But compare that, let's call that infinity number 1. I don't know if that's what Cantor called it, but let's take another one. All the real numbers between 0 and 1. Well, you have 0.1, you have 0.01, you have 0.0000001, 0.0000002. There's no way that you can make a one-to-one mapping between those elements. So the second set is between 0 and 1 is a way bigger infinity.
Yeah, there's an infinite amount in between that set as opposed to the infinite amount of numbers in that first set.
And they can't even be enumerated because you can always find a number in between. So that's totally different. It's a completely different infinity.
Right. So right there, at this moment, you're ready to go nuts.
Yeah.
Pow! What the fuck?
Go to the sanatorium and cook yourself up a fake hamburger.
Yeah. And then someone's going to tell you that we have to invent numbers that don't exist or aren't real.
Oh,
to
the
try to
imaginary
solve
numbers.
fucking problems.
Yeah, if they're not real, then why the fuck are they so useful?
Right.
Hello.
When we need them.
Hello.
To solve problems.
We really do need them.
Like, okay, so explain to me in a way that won't get me crazy what an imaginary number is exactly.
Okay, well, an imaginary number or a complex number has a real component and an imaginary component. What's an imaginary component? It's think of the square root of minus one.
Right. Or zero.
In this sort of math. Not even dividing by zero, but think of just the math you learned in high school. And this is all. There's a ton of good videos of people explaining it better than I will right now. But if you need to think of number A times number B that gives you the answer of -1, well, with the kind of math you probably came across in high school, you just can't do it, and it's one of those undefined things. It'll make your calculator go ERR, right? But it turns out that's not the end of it. You can go further. You just need to decide that the square root of 1 is the symbol called I. We call it
a temporary little place.
Well, at first it seems like a stopgap, but the ramifications are so significant in other fields of mathematics, abstract algebra, and all kinds of other proofs and number theory, that it's hard to convince a sophisticated mathematician or someone who's read a little bit more than the basic definition that it's just a mere definition. It's the underpinning of so much more that's useful in engineering and science and theoretical physics that it solves real world problems, but through this sort of imaginary make-believe land that ends up canceling itself out just right at the end of the problem and giving you, ta-da, the perfect answer. So it's just amazing stuff. We call it I, so I times I equals -1. And so you have these numbers called complex numbers that will have a real component, say the number 3, plus some other imaginary component, maybe 2. So you'll have real number 3 plus 2 times this I, and it becomes kind of like an arrow, a little vector. And it turns out you can add them together, you can subtract them, there's a way to multiply them, and weird shit starts happening when you multiply them. Instead of doing what you would expect, the arrow starts rotating, and that has a significant kind of link over to trigonometry and all the things that you learned about sine and cosine. Anyway, fascinating.
Let me ask you this
question. And the logarithm e.
Okay.
So
wait.
I don't want to go down the rabbit hole.
Let's
too
not go
much,
down that rabbit hole.
But it's fucking magic.
I was going to ask you this question because the entire time you were explaining me what this imaginary number is, it reminded me a little bit about the kind of imaginary universe we make whenever we're trying to determine, like whenever we're doing quantum physics, for instance.
Oh yeah, I mean,
then
this shows up everywhere.
Like, and what I'm saying is that so you know how the entire universe that we have, we can't track most of the matter. We don't even know where the fuck most of that shit is.
Yeah,
we invent this.
It's
this
kind of an unsolved problem.
Right, an unsolved problem. Yeah. But what I'm going to suggest is maybe, just maybe, there's this whole imaginary universe that's just right there to solve the problem of where everything else is, because it doesn't exist. And so the universe just exists while this imaginary calculation is going on. But eventually it's just going to collapse in on itself, and you're fucked. That's what's going to happen. It's going to cancel itself out, and then it's over.
You know what they say. There's no I in team, but there is a fucking I in universe. Am I right? Am I right?
He's right.
Am I right?
All right, so now we're finished blowing people's minds here.
Boom! Actually, I don't think we blew anyone's minds, but it's fun stuff. Look it up.
Look, hey, if you don't think that it's weird that there are multiple infinities, then I don't want to blow your mind, because...
Oh, there are completely different categories of infinities, and in a way, the world gets a little bit more hopeless, because there's all of a sudden there's no longer just one infinity. Oh my god, there's like an infinite number of them. But in a way, you can harness them, and you can start manipulating them in equations that you couldn't do before you were able to categorize them. And that's kind of an amazing
So this
fact.
is probably why, of all of the sciences, the people who believe in God the most are mathematicians, because they probably feel like gods.
Well,
messing around with universes and fucking imaginary kind of planes of thoughts and shit.
The truth of the matter is, in a dusty old tome in the back of an Oxford library, God's been derived. Mathematicians in the know, no.
They've derived him.
They've derived
by doing so, they've actually negated him and in a sense canceled him out. So that's the great tragedy. By creating a mathematical proof for God, you actually destroy God. It's a weird thing,
Yeah, it turns out he's not even the infinite infinity. He's just like the seventh one. Isn't that weird? You'd think he'd be more powerful, but he's...
No, he has like a bunch of big brothers or whatever.
Yeah, we don't talk about that.
There are larger infinities more than him. I mean, like, he's an insignificant infinity compared to the other all beings that exist out there.
Well, maybe next time we'll talk about simulation theory.
Oh, how we're all living in a giant...
How it's unreasonable to think that we're not. And that's kind of... Well, let's talk about it next time.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. Because I'm going to bitch slap that idea.
All right.
Baghdad. Wait, where does it originate? It just sounds good when you say back to Baghdad. All right, well, we're going to be back next week anyways to cover... the Olympics. Is it how long did the Olympics last? Is it they're 3 weeks? Or?
Oh man!
Exactly.
Well, they are supposed to end.
Are you saying that they're not going to end like when they're supposed to?
They're supposed to end. When are they supposed to end exactly? We should know this.
Look at the schedule. Oh wait, they don't show the last part.
Yeah, I know, right?
I think it's the third.
I think it's like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. 21 days of Olympics.
21 days. So
3 weeks. If all goes well, they'll make it all the way to the end. Let's hope they do.
Yeah. So we have 2 more shows until it's all over.
Yeah. We're gonna bang it out.
Well, I mean, the first part is always the Rio. Obviously, we go on tangents, but before we go, there's one thing I kind of want to say that reminds me of this whole Rio thing. Is that even though I said that this is, the Rio could definitely push people to the edge. After I finished watching a special on the First World War, I got to tell you, it takes a lot more to drive people to the motherfucking edge. Especially now, like I said, we're a bunch of useless fucking babies. I don't think anybody wants to be pushed too far,
Yeah, you know what? You're right. Human resilience is just mind-boggling. And, we're getting a sneak peek into what Rio has been like for a very long time. And it is shocking us. It's appalling us. These dead bodies floating around, these couches that these rowers are hitting. It's just crazy to us. But this is how Rio people live on the reg. And human resilience is wild. So yeah, the breaking point for a whole country tends to be pretty far out there. Yeah, pretty far out.
I guess the one good thing about this is that at least we have an honest look, because we were all ignoring Rio before, but you can't fucking ignore this now.
Right. Yeah. Like when we're complaining about the Rio Olympics, honestly, I don't give a shit about the Olympics.
No, not the sport itself.
We're complaining about how things have gotten this way. Yeah. And
did we even cover one sport? I think I mentioned one Olympic gold.
It's 2016, and people on Earth are living this way. And to a large degree, it's their own fault for perpetuating it. But the global, the global community is also to blame. And, how do things get this way? There are certainly cities that are worse off than Rio that we're not even talking about.
Well, let me ask you this question before we go. Do you think that in our modern society, corruption will get worse or better?
Very complex question. I would,
I think there's a very simple answer.
It'll probably get worse because inequality breeds all kinds of madness.
No, but it's not just that. There's one very good reason why it will get worse, is because there's no in journalistic integrity. There's no need for journalistic integrity,
I see,
and no one gives a crap.
And you know what? Artists who have traditionally played the role of social critic are doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, are there any good wartime anthems? No.
Nope.
Are there any political counterculture movements that are really sticking it to these hypocrites? No. Well, at least
if they are, they're still too small.
If they are, the people aren't even interested in listening to that kind of stuff.
Well, then you haven't hit the fucking right message.
State of affairs.
You haven't hit the right message. You don't think that people who are easily goddamn led can't be led to see the world your way? If you haven't done it, you haven't done it right. That's the problem.
Yep.
People are easily manipulating. You're just not doing a fucking good job. And trust me, there's a lot of animus in people. You just have to hit the right chord, and that's not. Nobody's hitting that fucking right chord.
I think someone hit some animus in Rio in Guanabara Bay.
Nasty.
All right.
We'll catch everybody next week.